gave a handout, and I think the handout is online, isn't it? Is the handout online? I'm talking about just the outline, right? The outline is online, right? And we've been going down the outline. We may skip a little bit, but we go back to it. But it's all, I mean, we try to catch everybody up as we do it. During the summer, we usually take a break for the last couple of years, but years before, we went all the way through summer. But the last, I think since 2013, we take a couple of weeks off. So here we were going through a series of practice. I guess I can throw it up on this thing so everyone can see. The outline, the mystic technique outline. This is the outline that talk about the various practices. And I think we move down to, yeah. We plan to go back to, we went over Mudra Yoga, but we had planned to come back to Mudra Yoga and give a more detailed class. So we skipped over some, I think we went over most of this, right? Or at least half of it, right? Right? But we had planned to come back. Okay. So we plan to go back. Now we were here, so I was hoping that people had questions so that we can and the people online, feel free to ask a question. Yeah, there's the videos are there online. All the videos online. We have over 200, maybe, 300 videos online. So some of the videos are private, but you write in and say that you really want to listen to it, we'll open it up. So what I was doing here, New
message received from
turn this off.
+19542615090. Would you like to read it?
All right, John. There's someone's watching. They can text. You can text in and say that you're watching. Okay. Yeah. So what we do here, what I try to do, I try to give the practical side of the mystic teachings. A lot of I noticed over the years, a lot of people, they dismiss this because it's always just magic and there's a bunch of stuff. It doesn't matter. But when you take a full examination of mysticism, metaphysics, or whatever, you will find that it's very, very practical. And only thing it's doing is going one step from the physics of things. And I think when you really examine it and you look at physics, if you know physics and chemistry, you would see that they probably went to the metaphysical world in order to formulate a lot of their theories. Because when you study metaphysics deeply, especially the Tantra Satra, which means Tantra knowledge, and the Mantra Satra knowledge, when you study these things, you see that it's very, very scientific. And it all has to do with energy and different forms of energy, which is light, sound, and then mind, shape, because mind, but it has the 5 major energies, the 5 minor energies, and then you have the mind energy that molds all these things along with sound. Sound is a mind energy. And you have the Ida and the Pingala. The Ida, the Ida Natis in the body is a mental energy that runs through the body. Or your nervous system is an expansion, is an expression of Ida Natis. Your vital energy that helps you to move around is an expression of your Pingala Natis. That's within your auric structure. Now these nadis are part of the aura around you. Your consciousness resides in the aura. Not in your head. Not only in your head, but it's the whole aura. And then you have these nadis that intertwine and move through the auric body, at least 242,000 pathways that all interconnect with the 108 chakras, right? We have several major chakras along the spine and in the hand that these nadis go into and intersect. Usually when the nadis intersect 21 times, it's a major chakra. When a nadi intersect 14 times, it's a minor chakra. When it intersects 7 times, it's a minute chakra. So you have a total that we know of, 108 intersections in the body, which is where the consciousness splits up. Now, how do these nadis come about? We're told by the ancient teachings of Tantra and Mantra Satra that the soul took the Shakti power from the universe, and our sector of the universe is this solar system. The energies that ran through the sun and the planets and the moons, that took this energy called Shakti and pushed it down and concentrated it and pushed it down into an auric field that it had created for itself. And then it pushed it down to the major chakras, and as it went down through each chakra, the energy, the Shakti energy, was molded or changed or transformed in some type of way until it reached the last chakra, the last major chakra at the base of the spine, where at that point the Shakti power turned into Kundalini. And it said the whole became the not whole, and it revealed its Shiva. In other words, it went into a state of dormancy. As Shiva is the energy, is the all-pervasive energy of the universe, right? It is the absolute in perfect silence, perfect non-movement, but yet has all movement. It's the creator and the destroyer, is everything, right? It's total darkness, total silence. So what happens from you have the Shiva at the top, and then you brought down the Shakti at the bottom, which is totally opposite from the Shiva because it's active, but a part of it goes into a dormant state, and then a small part of it becomes very, very active, and it releases this sound vibration the same way Shiva released the sound vibration in order to start all creation. When you go back to to any Bible, you'll see that God spoke the word and the word was God. Well, the Hindus say that the initial sound was Vak. It was a great holy mantra, and then when it spoke this word or released the sound vibration, Shakti was released, and from Shakti came everything, came all creation, because it modified itself many, many times in order to produce life as we know it. Well, the soul took advantage of this Shakti, created this auric field, the body of the soul. Because the soul was created too by the spirit, and each one of us is a spirit. Each one of us is a divine spark of God. And this divine spark of God is always with God. It's a part of us that's always with this absolute being of the universe. But what does it do? It creates a soul, and through the soul moves through the universe, gaining the physical experience in the physical world, the so-called physical world. So what the soul did, when the soul pushed this energy down, it created this thing called Kundalini, which releases a sound, and with the sound is the Ida and Pingala is produced. Because Ida and Pingala, the Nati only means movement, a flow of energy, but you have a negative flow of energy and a positive flow of energy. The negative flow of energy is the mental energy. The positive flow of energy is the vital energy. And then you have the portal in which the energy arrived, which was Sushumna, which the greater portion of it turns into Kundalini and blocks the portal of Sushumna, bringing about basic consciousness that we live in, the realms of existence in which we live. And then this Ida and Pingala goes up, creating 242,000 pathways that we know of, and it switches, it goes into each chakra, activating the chakra. Now the chakra exists already, because a chakra is nothing but a vortex of energy or point of consciousness, in a sense. It's a bindu. It's different levels of the bindu. And the bindu is what we know of as a spiritual germ. The sun is a great Maha Bindu, because it's a great point of consciousness that gives life to everything around it. The moon is a Bindu, the earth is a Bindu, right? So what happens is it goes up, and these energies intersect with these different chakras. Now, at each level, it takes advantage of that position. In other words, we know that at the base chakra is very, very physical, right? It's the start of what we call self-consciousness. that first movement, that first interchange of energy. And there's a state of confusion, but it's also a state of, it's also a great state of unconsciousness and subconsciousness. It's more unconscious and subconscious at that state than any other state. At that state and at the sex center. When the energy moves, when it leaves the base chakra, the root chakra, the Muladhara, it goes to the sex chakra. And that is the seat of consciousness, right? That's where most of our consciousness reside. That's what the ancient teachings tell us. This energy goes there and it intersects 21 times and it produces this thing we know as basic consciousness, right? Now, at this point, you only have the auric body, right? There is no astral body. There's really no etheric body except for the etheric body of the aura. So it goes up into the solar plexus center. Now, at each center, there's already a flow or configuration of energy or Shakti that's been introduced by the soul, but on a higher level. You have at the base level, you have this thing called prana, which is a prana that moves up and fall back down in the auric body. Then when you go to the next level, you have this prana called Vyana, which actually moves throughout the whole auric body. It travels throughout the whole auric body. And then you have at the solar plexus center, you have another prana called a samana. And this samana prana is a conjunction prana that fuses and transform all the pranas, because all the pranas travel through the solar plexus center. And then when you go to the heart center, you have another prana which we call prana, or in the Mahabhuta's level it is called Vaya, right? The Vaya Bhutas. Because each level you have a Bhuta, the Bhutas, was the Bhuta, right? And then you have the prana that actually travel through the body. The Mahabhutas travel through the universe and it goes into the life streams. When the prana gets into the Mahabhutas of that particular solar system, it modifies the Mahabhutas. The Mahabhutas pass through it, but it also modifies a part of the Shakti power, because the Mahabhuta is part of the Shaktis. It modifies it, and so that it benefits the life streams of that particular solar system. And then it comes into the auric body and function as a prana and not so much as a Mahabhuta, right? But the Mahabhutas is still there as a backup operating system as well. So you have these different levels of prana. It might be confusing, but it's really not when you put it down on paper and you look at it. So when the prana gets to the heart center brings meaning, brings a higher and more condensed and stronger meaning to the energy. And that's where the bodies are created. You have all the subtle bodies that is created at the heart center. And of course, the heart center is a seat of the soul as well, right? Part of the soul consciousness vibrates stronger at the heart center than the other centers, although the soul consciousness it vibrates everywhere throughout the body. but at the heart center, it's set up a special operation there. And then you go to the energy falls to the throat center, and it is at the throat center that it's possible for the gross physical body to be formed. But it must use the energy that generated from the lower centers, right? In order to come to the physical center, right? And at that point, it's purified, it's filtered in order to karmically balance a cycle of reincarnation, okay, through that particular center, or incarnation through that particular center. Because a higher being can come through that already passed through the journey that we're on now to ascension. You can have someone who was ascended and now is a cosmic being or avatar can move back through that same thing and be incarnated instead of reincarnated here for a short period of time, do a job and leave. And we've seen that through history. Jesus, of course, had to be a great cosmic being. Buddha had to be a great cosmic being. Sri Krishna, Laozi, you got them all through our history. We had these avatars come through and manipulate energy in order to introduce themselves back here on Earth, do a particular job, and then leave. So at the throat center, you can be reborn. The soul can follow the law of karma and have you reborn over and over and over. It starts at in this way most people get confused. It starts at the base of the spine, because the base of the spine is what they call samsara. It's the wheel of rebirth. And the reason why is because of the consciousness is locked up there. But the consciousness need to use higher forms of energy in order to make that happen. Because at the throat center, you have a greater expression of the super and the supra consciousness that would never, and the subconscious too, that would never break the law of karma. It always stay within the law of karma. And the law of karma is the framework of the universe. Is when you follow the laws of karma, you find true freedom. You can do whatever you want, but you have to do it within that framework of laws, right? You're not bound by anything, because you realize that if I want H2O, I do what? I put together H2O, right? I use the formula, right? So I can always have water. So if you always want a particular thing, you just know how to bring all the ingredients together and make that happen. And there's no damnation, there's no coming down on you. Now, of course, if you go outside of the law, you trigger a pressure back towards you, because karma is pressure towards conformity. That's what karma really is. The law of karma is pressure towards conformity. It's making you move towards doing things right. Doing things in the right manner. It's not punishing you. It's not damning you. No, I mean, you cannot be destroyed. Scientists have realized that energy cannot be destroyed, right? I mean, that's one of the laws of thermodynamics. They realize that. And we are a supreme energy. We're on a journey, and we move from one life to the next life, taking on a different body each time. We don't necessarily fall back, we move forward. Going forward, you're not going to be born as a dog. No, you're going to be born as a human, and you're going to keep going until you leave the human race and go into a higher form of humanoid body. Until you begin to leave the whole humanoid body alone and then you may choose to operate through 1,000 humanoid bodies, or you might become a supreme being like a planet, or a sun, But the journey goes on until we expand and reach back to the absolute, So the energy. Let's go back to the energy of the body. The energy of the body, as it create these notic pathways, it falls into the throat center, and then it goes up it terminates at the third eye, or Ajna, or the Christ center, some people call it. And there, the Christ center is the command center for the soul. And it is there where the great soul management goes on throughout all your lifetimes. The Hindus say we have to be born 8,900,000 times or whatever before we ascend in the average life screen. So, that's how this works, and it is these chakras, as we in yoga, what yoga teaches you to do is to actually manipulate the energy through these chakras. It teaches you how to do this, and it gives us several major yogas to use in order to do this. If you study the 8 limbs of yoga, you would notice the pattern of how this is supposed to be done. And the major yogas is of course Karma Yoga. Well, Jnana Yoga, then Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Hatha Yoga, Raja Yoga. You have Raja Yoga, then you have the Pranayama, which is a part of all the yogas. You have Mantra Yoga, which is a part of all the yogas too. Then you have Kriya Yoga. You have Kundalini Yoga, and you have Layer Yoga. You have Tantra Yoga, which looms all the yogas together. In fact, Tantra Yoga should actually come before Kundalini Yoga, because what Tantra Yoga does, Tantra Yoga is a looming type yoga. What it does, it looms all the yogas together in a perfect system in order to awaken the Kundalini. And then once you awaken the Kundalini, you have Layer Yoga, which is the yoga that helps you move consciousness from one level to the next and have a dissolution of consciousness so that you can experience that awakening more. So let's go back. Jnana Yoga is the yoga of wisdom. It's a yoga that introduces wisdom to you on many, many levels, right? Then you have Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is the yoga of law and service, okay? And then you have Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is the yoga of devotion, all right? Devotion to God, to life. Because when you devote yourself to life or to God, you find that there's no barriers. You find that there's no distinction between the life in your body or the life in a chair. You come to that understanding that everything is an expression of life. You may have life, you may have an unconscious life, an unconscious state of life, and then you have a conscious state of life, and then you have a supreme state of life. But everything's on a journey because you begin to learn that in order for anything to be in existence, mind must be present. Consciousness must be present. Why? Because consciousness is the thing that holds everything together. You cannot create a chair that's going to exist in a time cycle if you didn't go to a mental state in order to design it. You see, you go to that mental state and you find out, how do I hold this chair together? How do I keep it in existence to allow a 300-pound man like myself to sit in it, or a 100-pound person like one of you? See, there's a mind that's been placed together. There's an equation, there's a formula that's been put into it. And that mind, the principles of that mind, is the thing that holds that chair together. So mind holds energy patterns in place. So everything has a mind, every single thing. A grain of sand has a mind. So you have to begin to respect. In Bhatha Yoga and Jnana Yoga, you come to that understanding that I must respect all life. I must not look at anyone below me, or disrespect anyone. I must respect everyone, regardless of what color they are, regardless of what politics they take. It's a life. Is actually the essence of God. So you must move forward in that type of frame of mind. Now, the next yoga we're talking about is, after Bhatha Yoga, you have Hatha Yoga. And Hatha Yoga is the yoga of physical well-being, right? And it has everything to do with the physicality of your body, your mind, and all the different organs. It goes into, it goes heavily into Ayurveda principles, into how you maintain yourself by diet, by drinking water. Now the Hindus, they drink a lot of water or they drink a lot of milk. So, but it's up to you how you want it. There's several levels of vegetarianism. You have a vegan level, which is all plant-based. Then you have a vegetarian, the second vegetarian level, which is vegetables and dairy. And then you have another level of vegetarian, which is all vegetables, dairy, and poultry. So those are like the three areas of vegetarianism that I was taught since a child. I'm a vegetarian, so I never ate meat in my life, never. I did drink milk at one time. I still drink milk once in a while. I started eating eggs at 24, 25. But I've never consumed meat or poultry. No meats or poultry. Now, that's a personal thing for you. You don't have to be a total vegetarian or vegan or whatever. That's something you have to make up in your mind. Because I met some students that couldn't become vegetarians because of their health. But that's something that you have to work around yourself. And one of the reasons why they tell you, they preach to become a vegetarian, because you shouldn't take a life to actually sustain your life. If you can avoid doing that, then avoid doing it. The plants, they produce fruit, and then we help them by taking the seeds and produce their offsprings. It's a process, So that's why, that's why that's not so bad. Now, but to to raise 1,000 chickens just to chop their heads off, that's not good. You know, or cows or pigs or whatever, you know. And then I mean, we don't have to go into what it all do, and I mean, all of us know that how horrible the farming industry have got, at least with dealing with cows or livestock. But you have it teaches you, and there's good books out there on our website, mysticknowledge.org. I think we have several different books on Hatha Yoga. Hatha Yoga also gives you all the yoga positions there, and it goes into why. Now, Hatha Yoga is actually a basic form of Kundalini Yoga and Kriya Yoga too. Hatha Yoga is, because it's Hatha Yoga and Kriya Yoga that leads you to Tantra and Jnana Yoga. I mean, Tantra and Kundalini Yoga, and it's actually an aspect of that. So then we have the yoga, a component of yoga that's a part of all the yogas, which is pranayama, mantra, and Raja Yoga. You'll find that pranayama, which is the yoga of breath, is a part of all yogas. You'll find that mantra is a part of all yogas. In fact, every time you breathe, every time you inhale and exhale, you've just completed a mantra, right? Because why? Because the yogi teachings tell us, the Tantra Yoga teachings tell us that the breath is a mantra that the soul repeats in order to sustain life in the body. So your in-breath and out-breath is a mantra that the soul repeats 21,600 times a day. And that's the only reason why you're locked into these bodies, the physical body, astral body, etheric body, the auric body, because of the 21,600 times of mantra that the soul repeats. Now, of course, the doctors say that we breathe 21,000 times a day. And this is ancient knowledge that the yogis stated thousands of years ago, that the soul repeat a mantra at the point where the Kundalini is formed and the nadis are released. There's a vibration of sound, and they call it the Hamsan, which is the Soham mantra that's repeated over and over and over within the body, and that gives us our in-breath and out-breath. And and once we stop that, the body, you are released from the physical body into the astral body, and then you're released from the astral body into a more auric astral body or auric etheric body, depending on what plane of consciousness you're going to go to. But that's so mantra is a part of all of that. Now, Raja Yoga is the yoga of mental development. And Raja Yoga, by the time you get to Raja Yoga, you're using all the yogas before that I mentioned, and you're using the yogas that I'm going to mention after that. Raja Yoga is considered the king yoga, because in Raja Yoga you use all the yogas, and it's through Raja Yoga where Swami Patanjali gave the 8 limbs of yoga. And in the 8 limbs of yoga is a system that allows you to practice yoga in a scientific way to spur development. Okay? It's a system. I think, do I have it in here? Do I have that in here? It's, no, I'm saying on this sheet. Did we put it in here? The 8 limbs of yoga. Let's look. I think we did. Yeah, here it is. So here we have, in the 8 limbs of yoga, you have yama, which is the control of thoughts and actions, right? You have niyama, which is the observance of God, divine in everything. These are the steps of yoga. Then you have the asana, which we talked about, which is the seat and positions of power. That's what all the positions that Hatha Yoga teaches you. When you go to the regular Hatha Yoga place, they're not going to tell you this. That's what you're doing. You twist your body up in order to extract or tap into the power. All of those are positions of power because it releases power into the auric field that allows you, the mind, to control that energy better or to take use of it through right action. Then you have the pranayama, which is control of subtle and gross prana, or of life within the body. Then you have the pratyahara, which is, at that point, you begin to withdraw the senses from the outer world. And at this point, this is where the so-called meditation happens, okay? Which is, it's only a road to meditation, it's not meditation. Where, when, you know, the reason why you go through all this Hatha Yoga, you go through all the conditioning of the mind through Jnana Yoga, through breath, through right thinking, right action of Karma Yoga. The reason why you do all of that is to get to the point where when you still the body, when you bring the body still, what you want to do is take all that energy and discipline and place it now on the mental plane and begin to get to know your inner self because you have conquered your outer self. Now you want to get to know your inner self. And then you go into concentration. Concentration is what? Is directing one's thought down a particular channel. And I think in the beginning of this class of the practices, I gave several concentration exercises. But concentration is directing one's thought down one channel, thinking nothing of that. You know, and you stop any other thought that's happening. And you sit in the silence and you concentrate on that particular chosen thing that you have chosen to think about. And that becomes your whole world. What you'll notice that in concentration, when you begin to line up that thought energy, after a while, you'll enter into a contemplative state where now new information about that object is introduced to you without you having to Google it, you know? And then that's the level of what? That comes the level of contemplation, which is a psychic level. You have entered the psychic realms. And now you can pull information out of the psychic internet, in other words, which is there, is everywhere. Information is everywhere. In this piece of table, you have more space than solids. And within that space is the information of everyone who touched it, the makers of it, the companies that produce it. The only thing you have to do is sit there and psychometrize it, and the information comes to you if you can tap into that level of mind. So That's what contemplation is. Then you have meditation. From contemplation comes meditation if you continue down this road. You where you become one with that you are concentrating or contemplating on. Now, like I said earlier, everything has a mind to it. Everything has mind. Mind holds matter together. So when you can tap into this mental and psychic world, you can move your mind into another object and experience the life of that object. You become one with it. And then you can have tremendous information on that. And it's a life-changing thing. Now, of course, to do this, we're taught that meditation, when you really go into deep meditation, what happens is whatever level that you're meditating on, whether it's the solar plexus level or the heart level or the throat level or the Christ level, your consciousness moves to that level. And everything below that is dead. Because what happened, you drain the body of the Kundalini. Kundalini allows me to move my finger. Kundalini allows me to blink my eyes. It allows the blood stream to move through my body. That's what that little bit of Kundalini that goes out into the nadis, that's what it does. It allows you to animate yourself. It allows you to think. But when you learn to concentrate, contemplate, and then meditate, what it does, it centers this energy to the level in which you're going to operate from. And then it allows you to look through that level of consciousness or that level of the Bindu. And then you can become one with that in which you are contemplating or meditating on. Okay? And that's what true meditation, which is samadhi, which is true samadhi. So those are the 8 limbs of yoga. Now back to this thing. I think I missed Mudra Yoga. Mudra Yoga is a part of Mantra Yoga. From Mantra Yoga comes Mudra Yoga. When you practice mantra for long periods of time, you'll begin to understand the principles of Mudra Yoga. And you'll begin to see the movement of energy. You'll begin to feel, taste the movement of energy. And then the whole concept behind the mudra, the mystic hand signs, and the position of the body is understood through mantra. The same way with mantra you can't give a mantra out to anyone. That mantra has to live within you before you can give it out to anyone. And then with that mantra, you have to chant that mantra many, many, many times before it begins to live within you. But there's a point when you're chanting the mantra where you unlock that mantra. You unlock that mantra, and the power of that mantra is revealed to you. And then from the unlocking of that mantra, you tap into your higher self, and then you go into the visions of the mantra, or you tap into the divas of that sound. Because every sound, there's a diva connected to it. Okay? So just like every vibration of your body, there's a diva connected to it. And a diva is only it's a servant of the laws of karma. They make sure that the energy of that particular sound or vibration is carried out, the right response is carried out. In other words, if you can think about a police officer at a traffic light and making sure that everyone turned the right way so there's no accidents. You know, it's a simple way of looking at it, but that's what a diva is. And a diva is an intelligence just like you and I, right? But they chose freedom instead of free will at the beginning of this journey. They chose to work within the laws of karma. So therefore, they was not bogged down with the physical existence that we are bogged down with. They live between the realms in a sense. They live on the vibrational level of existence. But they have a life. They reincarnate just like we do. But they have a greater freedom because why? Because they are because they follow the law, and they position themselves in order to support the law and not work against the law. What we do, we work against the law. You know, if one of us go home today and we feel like having a beer, we go and have a beer. If we feel like going partying, we go and party. Regardless of what needs to be done, we just go and do it. You know, so, you know, we work against the law. You know, we know that we should do a certain thing and act a certain way, and we decide, well, I don't feel like doing that today. I do it another day. And that's what we go and do. And from that, we bring karma, the pressures of karma against us. You know, but the divas, they don't do that. And because of that, they have been given control over this physical world and the subtle worlds too. So you have a diva of water, you have a diva of air, you have a diva of fertility, you have a diva of light, a diva of fire. You have all these divas that work almost like a group consciousness in unison, you know. And when you develop yourself psychically, sometimes you can see the divas. And it's very disturbing too, because, you know, I've read people, and I've seen a couple of divas myself at one time, but stories I read of certain people who made this their whole life study. They actually can see divas a lot more than most other people. And the most disturbing thing is when they go to a machinery factory or whatever, where all the machines are going, and they see these little tiny divas moving around. And some of them have legs, arms, heads, just like us, but they're moving around and making sure that every precise movement of that machine do what it's supposed to do. And it's the same thing with airplanes, with cars. They say they move in such precision and like little workers, you know. And some of them have, like I said, heads and arms, and then some of them have these bodies that produce hands and head or legs when necessary, but they may move around like air, like water, or energy. And there's a lot written on the divas when if you want to study it in the tantric and mantra satra teachings. So and when studying the mudra, when we're studying mantra or practicing mantra, you come to the knowledge of mudra. And mudras are restricted to, you don't just give a mudra out to anyone as well. Then you have Kriya Yoga. Kriya Yoga is the path through correct action. And you take Kriya Yoga, you take the principle of Kriya Yoga, and you make it a part of your life. And Kriya Yoga is essentially all the other yogas above it, right? And some of the yogas below it. So then you go into Tantra Yoga. Tantra Yoga is that path that looms all the yogas, all the 11 yogas above it, into a system to allow you to awaken consciousness or the power of Kundalini, which Kundalini is a vehicle of consciousness. That's what Kundalini is. Kundalini is a vehicle of consciousness because why? When the Kundalini is pushed, when just that 2, 3, or 4% of some of us are lucky enough to have released into the Nadi system, what does it do? It brings about consciousness, right? And that's how we move through life. That's how we understand things. That's how we grow. That's how we animate our life, right? It's through consciousness, through developing higher and higher states of consciousness. So Kundalini Yoga, again, a path to God through the rise and fall of Kundalini. What you have to do from Tantra Yoga gives you the systems in order to bring about the awakening of the Kundalini. Once the Kundalini rises, you must teach yourself to raise the Kundalini up the spine and bring the Kundalini back down, which is very, very dangerous. It's very, very dangerous. And it must be done over time. It must be done with someone guiding you to be able to do it, right? But what it does is that it brings about conscious states of death. That's what it actually brings about. Is when you are meditating, what happens is that you'll meditate to a point where you go into a death-like state, but you induce that death-like state through meditation, where you draw all the Kundalini energy out of one part of the body and place it into one chakra in order to open that chakra. That's the only way you're going to fully activate and open that chakra. Anyone who's telling you something different, they're lying to you, okay? Because what happens when you go into a state of Kundalini, you move that energy, you bring all the Kundalini energy within the nadis, and you place it in one stream, and then you push it up the Sushumna, and then that gives you the ability to unlock and calibrate that particular chakra, let's say the sex chakra, and you open it, and now your consciousness can absorb all the knowledge and preference of that realm of existence in the sex chakra. And at that point, you have moved from the base of the spine, because you open, in other words, you open the base of the spine chakra, then you open the sex chakra. Now, the great teachings tell us at that point, you have the ability to control and see 118 realms of existence. 118 realms of existence. So, thank you. So you, at that point, all your energy, all your Kundalini power is used to open that chakra and exists on those 118 realms of existence. And you have total control at that point. Then you withdraw that and you push it up to the solar plexus center, and you use all the energy below the solar plexus center is gone. Now that part of the body is dead. It's dead. But it's a conscious death. It's a conscious death that you brought it. Now you open that. You open the solar plexus center and you look through there. And now you have a preference and understanding of all the knowledge of that solar plexus center from that perspective. Now you have to be strong enough to take that energy back in and bring it back down to the base of the spine and lock it back up, in order to get up and walk around, in order to get up and walk again, because at that point you're crippled. Or you can move on and go to the heart chakra, And when you get to the heart chakra, everything below the heart chakra is dead. It's dead. And if you move above the heart chakra, the heart stops beating. When you go to the heart, to the throat chakra, if you take the energy to the throat chakra, everything below is dead. And that's the power of consciousness, and that's the power where you can become one with anything. At that point, you can, your understanding and vision is beyond any real description. You can, if there's a million people in that city, you can feel them, you can connect to them. In fact, you know them. Your consciousness expand across the world, up into the upper atmosphere, but yet you're centered. But yet you are totally aware at the same time. So that's true meditation. And what we have to learn to do that over and over and over again. And it's not easy to do. And at one point, when you do it over and over and over, you go into something called cosmic consciousness. Where it's a higher experience of this samadhi, of this meditation. But it's still the same thing. Now you make a mistake, you become crippled for life when you move in this energy through the body. Because it has to be very precise, and everything has to fall back the way it should have. Of course, when you pull the energy back down, you're more enlightened. You're more aware because you had an experience. It's like when you get up and pack all your clothes and you go to somewhere else in the world, you travel somewhere. You come back, you're different. Because now you have a true perspective of how that environment was. How the government that's there, the food they eat. You know the smell, the taste of things. You know how the people react, how they, their mental ability to perceive things or don't perceive things. Their connection to the world. You know that when you travel around the world. You come back, you're very enlightened. You say, okay, this is, what I was told in the media is a bunch of crap, it's not real. Well, when you go into meditation, you come back different because you get a true perspective of the levels of consciousness and what consciousness, the limits of consciousness and the no limits of consciousness and the dissolution of consciousness, because you are dissolving consciousness as you move up. And that's what layer yoga is. Okay? It's a dissolution of consciousness. Because when the body go into a state of conscious death, that's a dissolution of consciousness below. You cannot be affected. Because right now, we can sit here and we can go into a concentration or contemplative level and we can raise our consciousness up to the heart chakra and we can think all good thoughts. But there's a background play of the Muladhara chakra and the sex chakra. It's always in the background that we're being influenced by totally. See, because it has a power over us. But when you dissolve that consciousness and move all the energy up to a different level, there's no background play. You feel the total power of that particular level of consciousness. And that's what meditation is about. So in going forward, these classes, I want everybody to kind of understand this so that you can know that this is real, and I have either I or DeWin will send out a list of books that you can read and study to really understand this. You have a question?
Yeah. Someone asked online, well, not someone, Eduardo. What about Reiki? Does it activate the chakras like it's claimed? Or is it
What?
a way through meditation?
The what?
Through Reiki?
Reiki healing?
Yeah. Does that activate?
No, it doesn't. But what it does do,
Fine, yeah.
Reiki healing can cleanse the pathways of certain diseases, right? Certain blockages. Because what we have, and I said this 1,000 times, every thought we think, right, creates what is called a samskara in our aura, right? And you all can go and look this up. That's the Sanskrit name for it, right? It creates a samskara. A samskara is a mental image or a scar on the aura, right? And that's what happens, you know. It creates this scar on the aura. So what does that mean? It means nothing to you, right? But what happens is you have an aura, right? And you are within that aura, right? Make this good stick body here. That's you, right? So this is your atmosphere or the aura around you. The same way the earth have a atmosphere around it, right? So why wouldn't we have an atmosphere around us? We do. It's called an aura. And when you have a particular thought, what happens is that you have these chakras. That thought originates from one of these chakras. If it's a low thought, it originates from a lower chakra. It sends a mental image out, right, to the mind belt of the earth. But when it does that, it scars your aura, because the substance and the energy that created that thought and projected it is still left here. So what happens to this? It turns into a seed and it sinks back into the aura.
New message received
Until
from 619-542-6159.
it's
Would you like to read it?
thought I turned this off.
I didn't hear you. Would you like to read it?
So
Sorry, I
until
still don't
we
hear you. Try again later.
until we need that particular energy again. In other words, so the samskara turns to a seed. Okay? And this seed is embedded in the aura. Now, let me tell you how you can recognize this seed, right? If you have some like music that you like, my daughter and I, we was up late last night. My daughter's a singer, so we was up late last night and we was listening to all these different music online or whatever, and looking at the pitch and the tone and everything. But what happens is it brings back memories, right? If you ever listen to a song that you used to listen to 30 years ago or 20 years ago or whenever, you'll notice you get a flood of emotions. Why? Because at that particular time, that music captured your physical, mental, spiritual position at that time, since you paid attention to that music, and it scarred your aura. It left a samskara, right? And now you play that music, immediately what happens to you, you go back to that particular time. And it brings back old memories, right? So these samskaras become, you have good samskaras and you have bad samskaras. The bad samskaras become blockages in your life. And it can stop you from moving forward, advancing, or whatever. Now, a good pranic healer can help to eliminate some scars, right? Because what happened, it'll create a blockage, and then it'll bring about a mental condition, and then a physical condition within you. So what the Reiki healer do, if they're really good, or a pranic healer, they push their own pranic energy through one of the chakras, and they can remove some of the blockage. They can bring back some normal operational functioning of that mental or physical local area or whatever, wherever it happened at. But one of the best ways to remove these samskaras is through the chanting of mantra. It's through the chanting of mantra. And affirmations. Simple affirmations some Frenchman came up with many years ago, which he probably adopted from some group, probably some Sufi or Jewish group. But he said that day by day, in every way, I'm getting better and better and better. And he repeated that. He said, repeat this 10 minutes before you go to bed. And it seemed to work for a lot of people. Of course, the metaphysicians and the yogis have been doing stuff like that for years. They call them mantrams, right? Affirmations. They say they modified and said day by day in every way, with the help of God, I'm becoming better and better and better. 5 times. 5 is the number of what? Change and travel, right? So, and then what happens when you go to sleep, if you repeat something in a repetitious manner, 10 to 15 minutes before you go to sleep, your subconscious will repeat that probably for 2-3 hours after you sleep. And it makes it creates good samskaras in your aura to spur, the healing. Or, it doesn't have to be those same words. You can pick positive words saying that I'm filling myself with the power of healing energy to attack such and such a thing and make me well again, and repeat that over and over and over and over again. I will always say do it with deep breathing, with pranayama, complete breaths or whatever, and chant that, and what'll happen, you'll bring about healing in your body. And then all of a sudden you'll have the mental attitude to do what's ever necessary in order to heal yourself. And a Reiki healer person, normally what they do, they can remove stuff on the outer layers. You can remove stuff in the inner layers. Unless you come to a person, a pranic, a healer that really understand pranic healing. I'm not putting down Reiki healing people. You can't call yourself a Reiki master in a couple weekend sessions, or maybe several months, or maybe a year. I think it takes many years to become a master of healing, Although I've seen some people who were adepts and masters of healing that can really heal, whether through Reiki or through pranic healing or through a simple prayer. So it's real, but I don't think it can be commercialized. It takes many years of practice and control of the mind. But yeah, so no, you cannot. And let me tell you something. Then you don't have to take my word for this. You can go back and study. And especially in England, when the Europeans and the Germans really got into Hinduism and Buddhism and whatever, and they really was trying to study Kundalini, they went so far to try to incite Kundalini through electrical devices, right? And it didn't work. They use they use psychedelic drugs. They use everything to try to move the power of Kundalini, to make it move, and it wouldn't move. The key to moving the power of Kundalini is gaining mental control over the subtle energies within your body. That is the key. You know, they took electricity and took the harmful amps out of it and pushed electricity through the spine, trying to move it, trying to have it. It didn't work. And then some that did were they by accident. Some of them would incite a minute or minor chakra, and then they'll have clairvoyance for a couple hours or a couple days or whatever. But they couldn't keep it. It wouldn't work because why? Because they have not cleansed the body of those mental blocks. You know, so it's only temporary. And there's the psychic research society. They have volumes and volumes and volumes of the experiments they did to try to move the power of Kundalini. So it's not, you know, the Reiki, you know, Reiki is a healing, is not something that's moving the power of Kundalini, moving your because remember, your Kundalini is your vehicle of consciousness. That is you. That is the thing that you're using in order to bring about consciousness. You know, so they cannot do that. Any other questions? There's no other questions here or online?
Mm-hmm. In order to affect the movement of Kundalini energy, then, would you say breathing exercises?
Yeah, breathing exercises is an avenue to doing that. Yes, along with visualization. You have the pranayama, the mantra, and the Raja Yoga. Those are like the key things. Because once you learn to breathe, remember, your breath is connected to Kundalini. You know, and so once you can learn to regulate breath, right, through the retention of breath, first through the rhythmic of breath and the retention of breath, right, then you can begin to control, along with visualization and along with mantra, you can begin to control the flow of energy once you can do those things, right, through the body. So if you notice, how do we get energy in the body? We get energy in the body through what? Through three main ways, right? Through food, through water, and through breath. If we stop eating, it takes what, a couple months before we die, right? If we stop drinking water, we can last 3 to 4 days. If we stop breathing, what, the most is 5 minutes, and you're dead, you lose consciousness. So breath is the way that we have to focus on. And that's why pranayama is a part of all the yogas. Pranayama is introduced in every form of yoga. You must have control over pranayama. And along with pranayama, you must have control over your mind and your movement of the body, because it is consciousness that moves mind and body. And it's done and is used it moves mind and body through the regulation of breath. Okay? So that's where pranayama comes in at, in order to control Kundalini. Any other questions? If there's no questions, we can close out. Huh?
I have some questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Going back to the aspects of the Soham mantra that are repeated by the soul to keep in consciousness. You said that's repeated through the Muladhara?
Yeah, the
On this
Kundalini, yeah,
Where Kundalini is housed. Warehouse.
yeah.
So does that mean is there an aspect of Soham for each body of the org bodies?
Remember, we're talking about the background operating system.
Right.
What's the background operating system?
The subconscious and the superconscious.
Well, the auric body, which is layers of that. So that is done in the auric body. So if it's done in the auric body,
It's done with all the bodies.
it's done with all the bodies because you created the operating system, and then the energy goes up and it produces what? It produces layers of consciousness, and then it produces the subtle bodies, and then the subtle bodies can enter into the physical body. But it's first the auric body.
And as Kundalini is moved up, is the Soham mantra another aspect activated to correspond to that psychic center?
What do you mean?
So moving Kundalini from the base to the sex, to the solar plexus, and everything else below it is dead, or in its conscious state.
Then the Soham just go up. That's all.
Okay.
That's all. Remember, you taking charge of everything. At that moment, you're becoming one with what? What is meditation?
Well, whatever it is you're
No. In the mystic terms, what happens to the soul in meditation?
bathed in the light of the spirit.
It's bathed in the light of the spirit. So what? Consciousness is created by who and by what?
By the soul.
By the soul. So if you have a dissolution of consciousness, what's happening?
The soul is just taking it back.
And you're becoming part of the soul. See? You dissolve consciousness in order to go into this supra-conscious state, which is a soul state, right? It's not a complete soul state, because you have consciousness, you have super-consciousness, then you have supra-consciousness. And supra-consciousness is where the soul may operate. So when you go into a meditative and samadhi state, then the dissolution of consciousness bring you into that super-conscious state, right? And the super-conscious state, which leads you to a supra-conscious state, a state above the super-conscious mind. So that's what's happening. And at that point, then there's a dissolution of consciousness. And then what do you have to do? You have to reform consciousness again.
And push it back down.
And push it back down. Okay?
So when Kundalini is rise all the way up in say to the Christ, and the bodies are in a conscious state of death, as opposed to an unconscious state of death where the body begins to deteriorate, what keeps...
The body doesn't deteriorate because at the crown chakra, we're told that a warm beam of light is kept right at the crown chakra, at the mole, right? In order to stop rigor mortis from coming in. I don't know if you know when a baby is born, you notice that fontana lobe is open, right? And it's always warm, right? Any of you ever felt it? It's very warm. Well, feel it the next time. You get a newborn baby, and this part is open. And it's always warm, and it closes as the baby develops, right? So at that point, when the baby's born, the baby lives in multiple realms of consciousness on levels simultaneously, and is aware of it. Okay? I'm not going to go into it, ask me another time. But that's what happens until the baby solidifies itself into this world. Okay? So now when you go back into this dissolution of consciousness, you create that warm spot again in order to, you're living in multiple worlds of existence at this time, in order to keep that particular, the physical body, the astral body, because the astral body is connected to the physical body, alive. Okay, the astral body is your emotional body. All right, and that's why it's the same way when you're developing yourself psychically. And I get a lot of calls from around the world when people who listen to YouTube and they begin to practice, and then all of a sudden they jump in and out of their astral body, or they begin to see through walls, or experience all these different things. Because why? What happens is that the physical senses and the astral senses merges. And then they have this psychic sense. And with that psychic sense, you can use the psychic sense in order to develop a higher psychic sense, right? And that's what happened. There's a dissolution of consciousness. The dissolution of consciousness between the physical and the astral is part of that maya, that illusion wall comes down, and now the two senses merge. Now you can see on the physical plane and the astral plane all at once if you wanted to. Some people think they're going crazy. You're not going crazy. You have just sensitized your body to the point where you can see things, feel things, touch things. Some people may not see nothing, but they may feel everything, or they may sense everything. I had one student that had a keen smell. I mean, they can sense goodness, badness, whatever. Just a keen smell of sense. When that was the first sense to merge, right? And then, of course, all the other senses follow suit if they continue to practice, or they lose it all if they don't. But that's what happens. Is that it?
That discussion spurred several other questions. So
Huh?
let me ask. There's a couple of questions here.
Okay.
Cedric asks, can psychedelics be a useful tool in Kundalini work?
No, do not use that. It's dangerous, and you can set yourself back lifetimes. What happens with drugs, especially synthetic and psychedelic drugs, that's introduced into the system wrongly, it can cause a cancer in your auric body or your astral body, which moves to the auric body, and the auric body stores it the same way the liver do for discharge later, which later can be in your next life. You can be born blind. We can be born with no hearing or deaf. You can be born crippled. You can be born with a mental deficiency. And not only in your next physical life, I'm talking about in your next astral life, because we live on the physical plane for a while, and then we go and live in the astral realms for a while, and then we come back to the physical plane for a while. So you can damage yourself for the next couple of lifetimes. In the astral plane, you'll have that defect. Don't think when you leave this body, you're going to go into some great spiritual enhanced body. The astral body is more enhanced, or the astral planes, you have a greater control of the mental world. But if you act a fool here, then then the resort's going to show on the other side. And the only thing you have to do is learn to project and go there, and you'll see all the damage that people have did to themselves. So, and then they got to be reborn back here. And they come back, and that's why when we walk around this physical world, we see so much craziness too. Because why? The hells have opened up into this plane of existence. And the greatest population of this earth live in the lower astral realms because of stupid stuff that we do. So no, stay away from psychedelic drugs. That's not the way to do it. And all these smoke pipes these people like doing now, stay away from that too. That damage your psychic, auric, and astral bodies. What's the other question?
When some scars and music are released and experienced, is there a way to ensure safety?
Just turn it off. What you mean by that?
I guess, is there a way to experience some scar or burn it up safely?
I told you, you do that through mantra or through redirecting the thought. It's only a past thought that created a megabyte of energy within the aura that plays, that respond to your emotions. If you gain control over your emotions, you gain control over the samskaras. That's why in the first limb of yoga, it says what? Control over what? Thought and actions. You bring about control over the thought and actions. What's the next question?
Is it possible to try to heal ourselves from the damages already caused, I guess, from the use of psychedelics and reduce the consequences?
Yeah, through the Ayurvedic way of healing, through mantra, through prayer, through deep breathing, through pranayama exercises. Yes, you can always reverse something. There's never doom, doom, doom. There's always a way. Even if it take the next 3 lifetimes. We got plenty of time. That's all we have. So yes, you can reverse it. Any other question?
I think that's it for now.
Let's go ahead and close out with a prayer. And what we do, we use a mudra, a prayer mudra, in order to do this. And what we do, we use this mudra right here. Place a thumb in here, close it, put it down to your side, right, on both sides. And you breathe in and out. In order to fill the body with energy, you face the east. In order to fill the body with energy, right? And you close your eyes, allow the energy to build itself up. And then when we get ready to say the prayer, you use this mudra to hold your hands out. You can hold it like this, or you can hold it out like this. And what you want to do, you want to imagine, using your visualization, Raja Yoga, you bring the energy, you imagine that a stream of energy is coming down through the top of your head from the upper atmosphere of the earth and down into the top of the head, down through the the heart chakra, and being released from the heart chakra and released from the palms of the hands and the fingertips of the hand. See this tremendous energy coming down through you as you say the prayer. Now, when the prayer is done, you want to cut the energy off. So you use this mudra right here to cut the energy off. If you don't, the energy will continue to drain through for the rest of the day. At the end of the day, you'll feel miserable. So don't do that, okay? And when you do this right here, say to yourself, so it is done. Quietly, so that no one else can hear you say it. Because why? You have activated a mental flow of energy on the mental planes, right? By bringing the energy down through. So now you have to give a demand to shut it off, right? So you whisper into the mental realms, so it is done. So the energy stops, all right? And that's the mudra. Okay, let's go ahead.
Loretta, to answer your question, yes. As long as it's done in the same way that Nehemiah taught, using their pranayama or mantra to burn up some scar.
The New Lord's Prayer. O divine and wondrous Spirit, O everlasting Lord of hosts, send forth now through me thy great and lasting power. Allow me, Almighty God, the lasting privilege of radiating to all the world thy great love, so that those who suffer may be given the power and energy to rise above their weaknesses. Almighty God, in great humility do I ask you to send forth your power, to give to me this great lasting privilege of being a channel, so that my suffering brothers may be helped and guided and healed and lifted into thy light, so that they who know not may look up and in doing so receive to their higher selves your divine counsel. Almighty God, this day have you granted me a divine privilege. I ask you now to give to me the strength so that never again will I turn from my inner vision of you. O great peace, great peace, great peace. In praise of your greatness, O God, doth my soul sing. Grant it energy to sing on forever and forever.
Thank you for watching. See you guys next week.